Right, Carl and the Maestro? Yep, PR department as well. You know I hate summer. This is a known fact. We've said this on many separate occasions around here, but apparently this show loves the summer. And what do I mean by that? Well, for the past 12 years, for every milestone that we've hit, from episode 100 to what we've had now, every single one of the milestones have landed during the summer solstice. I mean, this show, Music Village Radio, first kicked off in the summer with the help of Patrick Crocker, and a big thank you to him, by the way, which we will thank him again by the end of the night. But at the same time, it definitely proves that despite the heat, the storms, and everything else that could possibly happen, once those street lights turn on during the summer, you can guarantee that something magical will happen. And yes, Carl and the Maestro, it may take 2 years for it to happen, but it usually happens during the summer solstice. So to all you streetlight crusaders, you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, wrestlers, and anybody else in between who is most likely working the graveyard shift, tuning in on their radios right now, we would like to say, and we will say it again by the end of the night, a very big thank you for this moment, because this is just like every single moment we have during the summer, it's going to be magical. So with the mushy stuff out of the way, and with us wearing this cool-looking blue suit, I think it's time for us to rock the house. So, Carl, Maestro, if you will, could you crank up the music? Because I think it's time for us to really kick this sexcentennial era off with a bang. Go ahead. All right, all you up-all-nighters, you insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, and drivers, and especially you streetlight crusaders from all around the world, welcome to the 6 in the evening, 600 episode edition of the Tuesday Night Special. I am your insomniatic sexcentennial host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing the best for the North, South, East, and West that the world of music, games, and wrestling has to offer. And man, oh man, seeing the fact that we've reached the biggest milestone of the summer with plenty of streetlight delight to deliver for tonight, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special sexcentennial adventure of the Insomniatic Variety Edition of the Tuesday Night Special. Because we kick things off with what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Norfolk, Virginia, which, if I do remember correctly, I'm pretty sure is about an hour away from when I saw that baseball game in Virginia. And according to Carl and the Maestro, we'll triangulate the coordinates later. All right? Also, besides that, we go ahead and check out a very special time-traveling samurai warrior edition of the As Seen on TV. And according to Carl and the Maestro, you picked a good one to start off the sexcentennial era, and pretty sure it was from the makers of Dexter's Laboratory. And you're right, Carl and the Maestro, you're right. Also, besides that, we also go into a very special triple threat lightning round edition of the DJ Smokies Great Moments in Wrestling History. And the reason for this is not only because Dan the Weatherman Stu's running late, but also because the road to get to this was pretty shocking. Yeah, I would have to agree, Carl and the Maestro. Also, besides that, and speaking of Dan the Weatherman Stu, we find out if he can match the celebratorial energy we bring to the room for this show, and what sort of plans he has for it, as well as whatever sort of weather we can expect for this week as well, for another edition of the Weather Update. And according to Carl and the Maestro, he bought that confetti machine with him as well, too. Oh, good luck trying to get that thing up the stairs. I heard he used the pulley the last time when he tried to get it up here. Ugh. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before the morning sun rises, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the Indie Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local content information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the maestro to kick out the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, the beat Dan, the weatherman stew to the punch, let that blue and silver confetti rain across the lands. Cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on this street-lit, moonlit, 600th episode sexcentennial era starting Tuesday night. Only here, right here on the Tuesday Night Special. So let's get this 600th episode Streetlight celebration started, folks. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, and I guess a couple wrestling fans who are still up for tonight. Welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to go into another edition of what happened during this week's edition of Monday Night Raw from Norfolk, Virginia. And during the break, Carl and the maestro triangulated the location of where the baseball game took place and from where I was, and it's just about an hour away. Nice. Thank goodness I wasn't driving for that. But then again, when I went to that game, I was way too young for it. But either way you look at it, folks, when Carl and the maestro laughing over in the corner, imagine me at that young age trying to drive a car. Monday Night Raw would kick off with none other than an update of what happened to Royce Keys. And Corey Graves and Michael Cole would let everybody know that after what happened last week, Royce Keys is out indefinitely. Only for Solo to sing his way through the crowd the Usos theme song, or more or less Jey Uso's song, and would say, all y'all saw what happened last week, the Keys, I'm out here to handle family business. And I got a feeling that was the magic word for the day for Pee-wee's Playhouse, because then you would see Jey Uso making his way out to the ring, but was in no mood for any of the jokes that Solo was proving, and then would say that, yeah, I would say the same thing too, what Solo would say, that, yeah, you fell off. Weren't you a former world champion? A Royal Rumble winner? Someone who almost got the King of the Ring crown, yet you're taking orders from Roman Reigns. And then at the same time, Jay would tell him, hey, if it hadn't have been for Roman and everybody else, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be where you are right now, and you'd be somewhere else. And then he said, you're gonna come back to the family. Only for Solo to say, I'm not going back there. I love where I'm at right now. Norfolk loves where I'm at. Only for Jay to say, you know what? Since you want to be disrespectful, we gonna handle this tonight. Because it's gonna be me versus you, and if I win, you're going back to the bloodline. I'm gonna hand you to Roman personally. And then for Solo to add on to the pot by saying, if I win, you're gonna leave me alone forever. But then again, Jey Uso prior to all of that would say, this is your warning shot, blow. Only for Solo in the funniest way known possible to say, oh, is everybody okay? So, did anybody get shot? No? All right. I don't know why in the world that reminded me of something from Harlem Nights, but it really did. Only for Solo to say that, yeah, if you win, you leave us alone, and I'm giving you a warning shot. Pew. Right. Good old Solo, you gotta love it. Then And meanwhile, backstage, after Jey Uso decided to take matters into his own hands, Jacob would immediately show up and say that, yeah, you know what? Why are you out there calling your own plays? Why ain't you following the orders of Roman Reigns? And then for Jey to say, well, I'm going to do what you couldn't do, and I'm going to bring Solo back to the family. And Jacob would respond back and say, that's if you get the win with your punk ass. Yeah, Jey Uso cannot catch a break, I swear, especially against Jacob, but for good reason. Because he really did try to say, oh, you're going to acknowledge me as well, too, and yeah, that's not going to happen. But besides that bit of family business that we'll handle for the main event, the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw, which was physical and not verbal, would see Penta going one-on-one against the Laredo Kid. And the only reason this match is taking place because this would be a part of a tournament to find out who's gonna fight Roman Reigns when Monday Night Raw goes to Mexico City for the World Heavyweight Championship. You see, that was the thing that Rey Mysterio was talking backstage to Roman Reigns about, who would agree for this tournament. And for the first leg of this said tournament and the match that would come with it, we would see Penta during this match taking it to the air with said Laredo Kid, which Laredo Kid will respond back with a standing twisting senton during this match for near fall, even pulling off a Poison Rana in a 450. Haven't seen those on Raw in a while now, but glad to see it back again, but unfortunately couldn't finish this match. Penta with a backstabber. No good. Penta driver. But what would end the match after we would see the Laredo Kid making one false move would be a Mexican destroyer to see the man whose native home is Mexico City moving one step closer to a homeland title shot via pinfall. Then after that, folks, meanwhile, backstage, we would see Logan Paul, who would get interviewed by Byron Saxton with the rest of the division, saying that the team of the Alpha Academy are a bunch of losers. And that's why Maxine left. And Maxine would say that Tozawa doesn't stand a chance against my bad boy of Austin Theory. And Austin Theory would say that the same thing, that he doesn't stand a chance. Only for Braun Breaker in the background to just stare off into the distance, I guess thinking of clouds and rainbows, but at the same time thinking about what in the world that Brock Lesnar said that Oba's the future. And would ask Byron, what do you think about Obafemi? And he said, oh yeah, I think he's a great guy, but what do you think about what Obafemi had Brock Lesnar say to him? You think he's the future? And then for Byron to say, oh, if Brock Lesnar said it, I guess it might be true. And then for Braun Breaker to say, you sound like Paul Heyman, and just walk off, looking out to the distance. But that would lead directly into our next match of the night, which would see Austin Theory going one-on-one against Akira Tozawa. And during the said match, Akira taking a lump of the abuse during this match, but would come back with a Shining Wizard and a big boy senton for near fall, only for things to really go off the tracks for him because, yeah, we would see Austin Theory knock his lights out with a move that he now calls the off switch, which for those who don't know what it is a ripcord forearm right to the face, which sort of reminds me of a more violent version of Wade Barrett's bullhammer that would get him the win. And after he would win the match and not satisfied with the fact that he won it, he would then decide to beat the daylights out of none other than Tozawa after the match was over, only for Braun Breaker to stare off into the void, only for Austin Theory to get a chair and try to do the same thing that he did to Otis to Tozawa, only for Adam Pearce, who right on time would show up, take the chair out of his hands and throw it away. And after they would argue back and forth inside of the ring, Braun Breaker, who was gonna break Tozawa in half, would get stopped by Obafemi. Well, at least by his entrance. And Obafemi, who would come strutting out and marching his way to the ring, would see Austin Theory trying to stop him, for Austin Theory to find out that, the theory of, relativity would come into effect here, as he would get kicked right directly in the face and dropped to the earth. And according to Carlyle and the Maestro, I don't think the theory of relativity goes into effect for this. You sure? And they're just shrugging their shoulders, all right? But the second Obafemi would get inside the ring, he would get in a little bit of a stare down with Braun Breaker that would leave Adam Pearce and the rest of the security team to break that up before it can even start, for the Norfolk fans to immediately say, let them fight, let them fight, let them fight. But didn't let them fight, because we would head directly backstage where we would see none other than Rey Mysterio talking to Dragon Lee about this big tournament and the opportunity that he got, for none other than Dominic Mysterio to be pissed off about it because he wasn't included in the tournament. And then for Rey Mysterio to remind him, we already been handed enough opportunities in life, that's why you're a jackass now. So you're not in the tournament. And at the same time, Dragon Lee would tell him, all right, well, if I'm not in the tournament, or if you're not in the tournament, you think you're the king of the luchadors, how about we settle it? And that would lead to some form of match, but before that can even happen, folks, inside of the ring, we would immediately see Stephanie Vaquer saying that she missed the people and thanks everybody for their support. And at the same time promises to take out the Judgment Day one by one by one, and would even call out Liv Morgan and tell her that, that title, belongs to me. For the man to come around and immediately say that, I'm with you. You're a bit of an enigma, and at the same time, when it comes to that championship, that's my responsibility, because Liv Morgan is starting to take that title back to the mid-2000s. Ouch! And would then tell her that you made an impact on Raw, but as of late, you had a string of bad luck, and she doesn't know if she's either a badass or someone whose body's gonna give up before her mind does. And would then tell her that the title I don't deserve that title deserves me. For Stephanie Vaquer to get in the face of Becky Lynch, for them to go in a little bit of a back and forth of a stare down, for Stephanie Vaquer to leave the ring, for Becky Lynch to stare at the monitors, only for Liv Morgan, in the typical fashion that Judgment Day does nowadays, to attack her from behind. But wouldn't get much of an advantage, because the man would hit her with a Bexploder and immediately send her flying out of the ring for Stephanie Vaquer to try to get her some, but failed to do so. Now, before we head into the next match, folks, we would have some exciting news. Congratulations to Bianca Belair and Montez Ford for having a baby boy this past week. Congrats! But outside of that bundle of joy being brought to the world, the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Dominic Mysterio going one-on-one against Dragon Lee. And during this contest, where we would see action going back and forth, we would see Dragon Lee pulling off a double stomp for a near fall, even countering the Three Amigos, still for a near fall. For Dragon Lee to get his foot caught on the middle rope before he fell outside the ring, which would jack up his knee, for Dominic Mysterio to take advantage of it with a helo for a near fall, for none other than Dragon Lee to come back with a tornado DDT, still for a near fall. Michinoku driver by the self-proclaimed king of the luchadors, still for a near fall, according to Carlyle and the Maestro, trying to finish my sentence. Thank you very much. Even seeing a corner stomp by Dragon Lee, still for a near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end after we would see Dominic Mysterio pulling off a 619, but unfortunately could not complete the set with the Frog Splash follow-up, because it would get countered, only for Dragon Lee to hit Operation Dragon and to have his point proven that he doesn't belong in that tournament via pinfall. And that's Dominic, just letting a couple of you out there know. Now, Originally, when it comes to things like this, after the match was over, you would expect the Judgment Day to come out and beat the ever-living Daylight's flag tag out of Dragon Lee out of jealousy. But instead, I think life would take another turn, in the form of Big Cass, who would show up after the match was done, big booting Dragon Lee in the face and hitting him with an East River crossing. And to quote Corey Graves, like a coward. Wow, I didn't think Corey Graves would call somebody a coward for attacking somebody from behind, but after his NXT days of him trying to go for the NXT championship and getting triple powerbombed by the Shield, yeah, I got a feeling he knows what that's all about. But after we would see Dragon Lee get laid out, we would then immediately see Javon Evans coming back from last week to try to get some revenge. But unfortunately, yeah, after he would try to go for a cutter off the mid-ropes, trying to prove how bouncy he could be, he would get hit right directly in the face with a clothesline by Big Cass and a big boot almost test-like for him to just get laid out by Big Cass, who's trying to stack bodies. And as of late, only 2. So I got a feeling by the next couple of weeks the list is gonna grow or somebody's gonna cut him at the knees. But outside of that bit of business, folks, the next thing to take place on Monday Night Raw would see none other than Joe Hendry in concert trying to turn his luck around and would say that he's got a brand new album coming out this October and would sing that we need to give Joe Hendry every belt. And then would even sing about some other things before the cameras can fade to black. And we head into our next match, which would see Roxanne and Raychel of the Judgment Day teaming up to fight against Sol Ruca and Io Sky. And before this match can even begin, and Sol Ruca, yeah, really miserable in life ever since getting caught in this vortex of the Judgment Day, and looks to end it tonight once and for all as she tries to get back her Intercontinental Championship that was stolen from her. And on that road to get that championship back during this said contest with action going back and forth, we would see Io putting Raychel straight to the bullet train with the assist of the ring post off the apron, only to see a front drop kick and a butterfly backbreaker to the legal woman of Roxanne for near fall. Even seeing a tornado DDT to Raychel for near fall thanks to Roxanne for an inverted suplex and a rebound suplex followed up by a springboard moonsault by none other than Roxanne after Raychel would do the heavy lifting, only for a near fall. Afterwards, Sol Ruca would break it up by kicking Roxanne directly in the nose. Ow! Yeah, that had to suck. But not as bad as what would happen next, folks, because not only we would see a German suplex and a bullet train attack for Sol Ruca to show her strength and German Roxanne as well too, and then would see this match come to an emphatic end after Roxanne would try to cheat, grabbing the tights for a near fall, tried to hit Pop Rocks for that to get countered by Sol Ruca, for her to get kicked in the face, and for her soul to get snatched, for Sol Ruca and Io to win this match via pinfall. And the next match to take place on Monday Night Raw would be our main event of the evening, which would see none other than Jey Uso going one-on-one against Solo Sikoa. Now, earlier in the night after the tournament was brought up, LA Knight would be pissed off about the fact that, hey, I wanted to be a part of that tournament to prove to Roman Reigns that I deserved to be world champion, but at the same time, he made it so that that was in Mexico only. Only for Adam Pearce to calm down the conspiracy theories by telling him we had that planned out for months now, or for weeks, and then for LA Knight to say that, oh, you're gonna try to get me a title shot? I like to see that happen. Only for Jacob to show up and let him know immediately that tonight is about family business, has nothing to do with you. For LA Knight to tell him wrong person, wrong time, and he said no, right person, right time, cause I'm all gas and no brakes with it. Yada mean Fatu. Okay, I guess Jacob a little bit in rare form since they loosened the leash around his neck. But outside of him being in rare form during this said match, I got a feeling Solo was in rare form too. Cause despite getting hit with a tope suicida and a flying crossbody during this set contest for a near fall, we would see him pull off a bulldozer attack in the corner for a near fall. Even a sit out, reminding me of Rikishi for a near fall by Solo. Even hitting the spinning Solo during this match, still not enough to end it. And then in typical Bloodline fashion, or at least for the Usos when they were a part of the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso would make his way to the ringside, distracting Solo for Jay to hit a spear on Solo for a near fall. Only for that interference to get neutralized with a Samoan spike directly to the throat of Jimmy. But unfortunately, Jay, prepared with a spear, would then take the win and of course take the hand of Solo Sikoa to send them back to the Bloodline via pinfall. And I got a feeling this is not gonna work in the way that Jay thinks it is, because somebody like Solo complying after all the stuff he did over the past several weeks, yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. But what could possibly happen next week? Will Solo fall in line and finally be a part of a growing family of Stockholm Syndrome with Roman Reigns at the helm? Will the Judgment Day stop cheating in their matches? Highly doubt it. And who else will advance in that tournament that's gonna get us closer to Mexico City with no pay-per-views whatsoever in the month of August for this said company? We find out the answers to that and more next week for another hot as all hell summer edition of Monday Night Raw. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to go grab a glass of water, and when we return, we'll be back with more of that streetlight delight as the Tuesday Night Special rolls on right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And now it's time for us to go into yet another Salute to Adult Swim Insomniatic Celebration edition of the As Seen on TV. Now, the show we decided to pick to represent 600 nights under these bright streetlights would be none other than the classic Jenny Tanakovsky, as we butcher his name to no end, his show of Samurai Jack. And Carl and the Maestro surprised that we haven't reviewed this show in well over 12 years. Yeah, I thought it would have been one of the first ones we got on the list, but apparently not. Yikes! And the meat and potatoes of this said show, which featured a samurai that went nameless but would get called Jack thanks to people on the streets, who would try to finish off an evil creature that would go by the name of Aku with a special blade that could have taken him out, only for Aku to send him to a future that is ruled by Aku, for Jack to try to fight his way back to the past. Gotta get back, Samurai Jack. Now, I know that's not the proper lyrics, but either way you look at it, those are the meat and potatoes. And with those meat and potatoes out of the way, folks, what did I love about this said show? Well, the fact that we mentioned a theme song, that was the one thing that I loved about this show, because not only did it feature will.i.am, who was a part of this show, for the theme song for Samurai Jack, but also George Pajon Jr. and Tyler Bates as well. But for those who don't know, around this time, during the era of Cartoon Network, will.i.am had a heavy hand in most of the cool songs featured during, I think, the Zoomies or the Noomies that were featured in the middle of the night. Yeah, let's just say there was a whole album of songs, and one of them did feature none other than will.i.am a part of it, which I think one of the songs he was a part of was Secrets. Still one of my favorite ones, too. But outside of the theme songs, folks, another thing that I loved about this show, and the reason why in the world this would qualify to be a part of the tribute to Adult Swim, unfortunately, once the 4th season ended for this said show, yeah, it was it. The show would end up getting canned, and they would leave it open-ended. Thank goodness they decided to go with that. But would try to go back and create a movie that would get canceled, which originally was going to be produced by J.J. Abrams of Bad Robot Productions and Sony Pictures, who really wanted it to happen. But let's just say, after Mako, the original voice actor of Aku, would unfortunately pass away, they would have to try to figure something else out. So 12 years later, after the show would get off the air and would make its way to Adult Swim in March of 2017, they would then conclude the entire show, giving it a darker, grittier, and more, raw version of what the show was, which was absolutely awesome. Not to mention the fact that they had Greg Baldwin replace Mako as the voice actor of Aku. And another thing that I loved about this said show, speaking of voice actors, would be the people who were involved during this show as well, including none other than the legendary Phil Lamar, who would play the voice of Jack, a part of Samurai Jack for 58 episodes of the said show. Even would see him being a part of the movie Pulp Fiction as Marvin back in '94. As well as playing Hermes Conrad, a part of 173 episodes of Futurama, and also being a part of 115 episodes of the show of Mad TV, which to this day, and I'll fight anyone to the grave about, is a bit funnier than Saturday Night Live. I really do think that. And before I forget, he was also none other than Roger Sack and Coach Webb, a part of 26 episodes of King of the Hill, even featured as Brown, a part of Among Us for 8 episodes, and Agent Crisp, as well as Artemis, a part of 12 episodes of American Dad. Oh, and Carlyle Michael said, nudged me over in the shoulders, was also Baxter Stockman, a part of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the later versions of the show, and was also featured as Lou and Geshim, a part of 2 episodes of Primal. Next up on the list, you have the legendary Mako, who would be a part of this said show as a coup for the first 4 seasons of Samurai Jack. But outside of being a part of that show, he would also be a part of Conan the Barbarian as the Wizard, even a part of Conan the Destroyer, returning back to that role 2 years later, and was also featured as none other than Po Han, a part of the 1966 film of the Sand Pebbles, as well as being Admiral Yamamoto, a part of Pearl Harbor back in 2001, would even play Poe in Rise Blood Hunter in 2007, and would even get the honor of playing the role of Splinter, a part of the 2007 version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And according to Carlyle the Maestro, was also Sakamoto, a part of Memoirs of a Geisha. Right? Next up on the list, you would have none other than Kevin Michael Richardson, who would play the role of none other than Demongo for 19 episodes, but would also be responsible for playing the roles of Goro, a part of Mortal Kombat in the 1995 live-action film, would even play Prime Number 2 in Skipjack, a part of the 2009 film of Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, would also be a part of the show of Young Justice as the Martian Manhunter for 35 episodes, and would play Captain Gentu, a part of Lilo and Stitch. Just to name a few things. Next up after that, you would have none other than Gray DeLise, who would be a part of this show as none other than the High Priestess for 15 episodes a part of this said show, but would also be featured as none other than Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman, a part of the Batman Arkham series, and was also featured in that role in Injustice: Gods Among Us, but would also be featured a part of 195 episodes of The Loud House as Lola, Lana, and Lily Loud, just to name a few. And oh, before I forget, was also RC a part of Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Next up on the play after that, you would have Jeff Bennett, who would play the role of Monkey Boy for 14 episodes, a part of Samurai Jack, but would also be responsible for playing none other than Pip in Anastasia, according to Carlyle and Maestro, go with the second one, but would play that role in Enchanted back in 2007. Would have the honor of playing Nasty Canasta, Foghorn Leghorn, and Yosemite Sam, a part of Looney Tunes Back in Action. Even playing Kowalski, Chuck Charles, and a computer, a part of 88 episodes of The Penguins of Madagascar. But most importantly, and a part of my childhood, would be none other than Johnny Bravo, the announcer and the mayor, a part of, well, Johnny Bravo back in 97. Oh yeah, not to mention was also the host of JBVO, a part of Cartoon Network as well too, as Johnny Bravo. Next up after that, you have the woman of 1,000 voices, none other than Tara Strong, who would be none other than a she, a part of 13 episodes of this said show, but would play, and yes, Carl and the Maestro, we're gonna be here for a majority of the night for this one, Barbara Gordon and Batgirl, a part of The Killing Joke, Harley Quinn, a part of the Batman Arkham series, Bubbles, a part of the Powerpuff Girls, even Princess Twilight Sparkle, a part of My Little Pony, as well as playing the role of, and according to Carl and the Maestro, Raven, a part of not only Teen Titans, but Teen Titans Go, even playing none other than Timmy Turner, a part of the Fairly Odd Parents, as well as being a part of the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder as Mrs. Brady, Julie, and a white woman for 4 episodes. And according to Carl and the Maestro, she probably was a part of the Loud House as well, so might as well include her in that credit list, cause yeah, it's a long list. I know, that's why we only had to mention that many. Next up after that, you would have none other than Tom Kenny, who would be featured a part of this show as none other than, and according to Carl and the Maestro, Scaramouche for 11 episodes. Would also be responsible for possibly one of the most infamous characters, a part of Nickelodeon, SpongeBob SquarePants, for well over 348 episodes, as well as a couple of movies as SpongeBob and games as well. But outside of that, would also be a part of the Transformers movie series as Wheelie and Skids. Then you have none other than, and according to Carl and the Maestro, outside of Tom Kenny, none other than Greg Baldwin, as we mentioned before, who would play the new role of Aku, a part of the series, a part of the later seasons, but would also play none other than Communist Writer, a part of Hail Caesar in 2016, as well as playing Uncle Iroh, a part of 10 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and as well as being a part of the Star Wars Clone Wars series as Gorm, Saiz, and Serpius for 7 episodes. Then finally, last but not least, since Carl and the Maestro said we can't be here all night mentioning everybody, even though I think they all deserve to be mentioned a part of this show, you have none other than Joe DiMaggio, or John DiMaggio. I keep getting his name confused for the baseball player, who would not only be a part of other shows, Bender for 161 episodes of Futurama, as well as playing Detective Harvey Bullock for 13 episodes of Batman Craig Crusader, Uncle Arthur, a part of the new Super Mario Bros. Movie in 2023, Transit and Stratosphere, a part of Transformers Rise of the Beast,
Frank Finetti, a part of 3 episodes of the rebooted version of Perry Mason back in 2023. But in regards to this show, would play one of my favorite characters a part of it, and I now see the reason why we wrap up with him. None other than the Scotsman, a part of 7 episodes of Samurai Jack. Now, my favorite episodes a part of this show, there are many. There are a lot of them, including the one where Jack would make friends with this cloud beast who would end up saving him and becoming his friend, but was only seen for 1 episode. But another one of my favorite episodes would involve the Scotsman and the fact that he would try to get across the bridge for the Scotsman to say, the only way you're getting across this bridge is you beat me in one-on-one combat. Which was funny, and not to mention they would eventually become friends that they would take on a couple of sirens. But another one of my favorite episodes would be the fact of these creatures in the trees who taught Jack how to jump good, which definitely was one of my favorite episodes as well. But the last episode of this show would have to be a bittersweet pill, but definitely one of my favorite episodes as well too. And trust me, when you see it, it'll definitely give you the conclusion you deserve, but at the same time, you hope for more. Now, with this show originally kicking off as of August 10th of 2001, which means, yeah, this show well over 25 years old as of this week, but coming to an end as of September 25th of 2004, a part of Cartoon Network, but would then find its way a part of a Toonami broadcast as of March 11th, all the way up until May 20th of 2017. Thank you for the correction, Carlyle the Maestro, because I was about to say May 19th and cut it off by a day. With this show having well over 62 episodes spanned over 5 seasons, and seeing the fact that we don't know how to review shows along the lines of Siskel and Ebert or any of those other famous film or TV reviewers that you know of out there, including TV Guide, we say this. If you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out how in the world a lone warrior from the past who went to the future that tried to solve the ultimate problem of a creature that refused to go down no matter how many times he struck him, to make friends and other things as he would make his way to a gritty conclusion that would take 12 years to make for a show that would be well over 25 years old, that would definitely make us feel old as we say it out loud, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. And trust me, folks, from start to finish, absolutely awesome. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music once again, and when we return, we'll be back with more of the Tuesday Night Special right after this. So don't go watching reruns of Seinfeld just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you video game wrestling fans out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And with Carlyle the Maestro telling me Dan the Weatherman Stu is gonna be a little late, and the fact that we still gotta find something to truly celebrate this show in magnificent fashion, according to Carlyle the Maestro, they found the best thing to do that. And that would be for us to go into a very special triple threat main event of the Saturday Night Lightning edition of Cue the Horns, Maestro! For a 600th episode edition of the DJ Smokies Great Moments in Wrestling History. if you're wondering at home, I am doing that Mighty Mouse pose. And Carl the Maestro, in quick fashion, was able to get that sign up and told me we got to do it now and not wait until after the Triple S Deluxe. So it had to happen. And it's brighter than all hell, Jesus. I had to put my sunglasses on for that one. But bright signs to match this bright show that we're currently having during Streetlight Hours. This great moment in wrestling history comes from the video game WWE 2K26. And this great moment in wrestling history takes place well over 4 long months ago during Alex's Universe mode, right after the cusp of the Survivor Series, after Yuri would dominate in usual fashion inside of the War Games cage, but at the same time had his eyes on the prize, on the one thing that he wanted for the longest, and that would be the World Heavyweight Championship, currently in possession to the ultimate underdog himself, straight from my hero, a person I would call Kid Lightning. And according to Carl the Maestro and King, would be called Kaminari. I still like Kid Lightning better, but either way you look at it, Kid Lightning that I almost called Kaminari on cloud 9 until he figured out that his first major title defense after the Survivor Series would be at Saturday night's main event. And this would be prior to one of the biggest rumbles in Alex's Universe mode history that would have a stacked deck. But in this said matchup that you would currently have, we would see Kid Lightning in a triple threat match. Not only going up against that giant oversized Russian psychopath Yuri, but also going against one of the most cockiest douchebag-like people I've seen in my life by the name of Francisco. And I would ask myself before this match could even start, what in the world did this cocky mother effer just do to deserve a title shot? And then I remembered, oh yeah, I forgot he won War Games. He's the only person to win 3 matches back-to-back and even a title after being in the War Games cage. And not to mention, would be the Royal Rumble winner of last year's WrestleMania. So yeah, he had one hell of a year and several years therefore before it. But the second that bell rang, all of that didn't matter because Yuri, to continue his dominant traits that he had inside of that War Games cage, decided to fling Kid Lightning to the other side of the ring and cause him to fly like an eagle, flapping his arms in the air after getting launched into space like a Sputnik-like satellite. Then Francisco, in typical triple threat fashion, would try to take every little side cut that he could possibly do to try to get that championship back. We would see Yuri pulling off a nasty right hook to the face of Kid Lightning. Francisco would then immediately clock Yuri in the back of the head, try to pin Kid Lightning for the win, but unfortunately Kid Lightning, too much heart, too much grit, would immediately kick out. Then we would see after Kid Lightning would hit Yuri with a move I call the Thunderbolt, right to the jaw piece, which would be a form of a torpedo Moscow for anybody wondering at home, would then see Francisco once again try to pick up the scraps. Still unsuccessful because Yuri would kick out. But as this match would go on, I got a feeling all that pain and torture that Kid Lightning would go under would finally catch up with him. Because I was sitting there commentating on the match, and I would tell King, hey, as long as Kid Lightning's fast on his feet, and he is really fast on his feet, he can still be your champion. He can still be champion. King over in the corner, my boy got the quick feet. My boy's gonna do it. My boy's gonna do it. But that would immediately change after the next move that would take place during the match. Because inside of the ring, Francisco would bring in a steel chair to hit Yuri. The chair would be off kilter because Yuri would clock him in the face, leaving the chair standing up sideways. Yuri would then proceed with Kid Lightning in the corner, punch him in the back of the head, and German suplex him on the chair. Now, Kid Lightning on the ground with arms wide open like Creed, just sitting there in pain as me and Alex and King would go, oh! Oh no! And Kid Lightning on the ground, just seemingly paralyzed on the ground on the top of that chair. And as Francisco would try to go in for the kill on Yuri, Yuri would kick out. But Kid Lightning still stuck on that chair until Francisco would stomp him out off the chair for Kid Lightning to roll out, Francisco to go immediately for a spear follow-up. And then 3 seconds later, without pinning the champion, once again, the little weasel, Francisco would win this match and become your new World Heavyweight Champion via pinfall. But unfortunately for him, that championship reign would be short-lived, and we would see the gold go right back around the waist of Yuri once again by the time the Rumble would show up. And for Kid Lightning, he would slowly but surely try to grind his way back up to the title picture by not only entering in that giant Royal Rumble with Francisco, who would lose the title at the Rumble as a bit of a spoiler, only for Stephanie McMahon to win the Rumble, Francisco to somehow weasel his way into a title heading to WrestleMania, and for Kid Lightning to end up on the Night 1 WrestleMania card trying to get the United States Championship and coming up short. But at the same time, Kid Lightning's next attempt at the World Championship would not happen once again for a full year. Yikes! A full year until the next time we would see Kid Lightning back in the title picture. And a lot would happen along the way. But that's the story, ladies and gentlemen, for another day. Because for now, that wraps it up for a very special triple threat lightning title main event fighting edition of the DJ Smokies Great Moments in Wrestling History. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with more right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the Insomniatic show that managed to make its way to the sexcentennial era and mentioning some cool stuff along the way for it, only known as the Tuesday Night Special. Now, Carla the Maestro already told me that they knew Kid Lightning was going to win that belt back, but didn't know it was going to be somewhere near a year later. Yeah, and don't worry, that story will be told most likely within the next 4 months. I don't know. Maybe sooner. Oh, and our favorite character or part of Samurai Jack was the Scotsman, because not only because he played the bagpipe, but the fact that his leg was a machine gun, which I do believe the movie Death Proof or Planet Terror, the girl with the gun, I got a feeling they got that from Samurai Jack. But besides getting ideas from kid cartoons that would eventually turn rated R themselves, I think it's time for us to go ahead and check out some video game hits as well as video game clips while scratching that indie itch you got from the world of IndieCade for a very special 600th episode edition of the IndieCade Triple S Deluxe. And we kick things off with the art wall. And the art wall picture that we have up for this week comes from none other than Paul F. Woosley and Mega Fendler with their said game of the Deep Blue Defender. And And the artwork that they submitted for this week, which is a lot of pictures into one giant oversized artwork, which showed not only our blue shark friend here wearing cool looking brown gloves and brown shoes and a pair of blue pants, all while wearing a cool looking shirt and looking to punch somebody in the face, only for the next picture to show another shark just wearing a pair of swim trunks, while two other sharks, which one being a hammerhead and I think the other one next to it being a whale shark, only to show another picture on the right of a shark wearing a shark helmet and holding on to a sword, showing also underwater pictures around the said area, and I think another one almost Pokemon-esque like of an overshot of the pier. And a couple of other underwater shots included in there as well, too. A giant collage is what Carlyle the Maestro calls it. But I would have to say it reminds me not only of, as we mentioned before, Pokemon, but it also reminds us of treasures from the deep, as well as a little hint of street sharks in there as well, too. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that the shark with the cool looking brown gloves can be a grappleist and take people out with a power bomb directly into the ocean. And according to Carlyle the Maestro, isn't that excessive? No, we are a giant shark that looks like you can punch a hole through a brick wall and then a mountain afterwards. Yeah, definitely gotta bring the pain. And what better way than to power bomb somebody? But besides using aquatic animals for wrestling moves, we make our way on over towards the sound wall. And the sound we have up for this week comes from none other than Mitch Murder with their said song, A Baby's Theme, from the video game of Mega Magic, Wizards of the Neon Age. And when I close my eyes while listening into this sound, it automatically reminds me of the show Carlyle the Maestro hosted at one point called The Arcade Kids, where a whole bunch of kids would get together on a Saturday morning, head over to the arcade, and just play games every episode. Now, the only reason that show came to an end and almost brought a tear to my eye when it did is because the arcade would get closed down and the kids who were going to the arcade every Saturday would get the bad news from the owner in real time, which would definitely bring the kids to tears. I mean, they've been going there every day for, the past 8 years. And to see that place close really did bring a tear to my eye. But at the same time, the pinball wizard found out about it and allowed them to play at his personal arcade in their castle. Which, according to Carlyle the Maestro, they might reshoot the show and call it The Arcade Kids in a Castle. It could work. Hopefully you go forward with it. But besides Carlyle the Maestro's ideas to bring a show back from the grave, from an idea that I just gave him, we now make our way on over to the Screenshot Saturday Showcase, and the Screenshot Saturday Showcase picture we have up for this week comes from none other than Olivia Presser and Dad's Last Nerve with their said game of Planet Pesto. Now, the screenshot that was provided for this week shows Alina here talking to one of the tiny factory workers about what in the world they can do to fix the factory, while covered in dirt, and not to mention wearing a cool bonnet and a cool-looking steampunk-like dress. Nice! And not to mention in the background showing a whole bunch of plants and what have yous, overlooking a glass window with several different designs on the other side. Pretty impressive. Now this screenshot automatically reminds me of the Outer Worlds. That and a little hint of Dishonored in there as well too. And here's hoping in the near future that she gets some pretty impressive tools to fix that said factory from shutting down in the near future. And according to Carlyle the Maestro, that little assistant on the ground may be able to help with that. Yeah, the one wearing the Sherlock Holmes hat and the weird looking gloves, I think he can help. Here's hoping he can. But besides that guy trying to help people out, folks, I think it's time for us to head into at least 20 games to be mentioned for tonight to celebrate 600 episodes of this Insomniatic programming. To also help that indie itch you got for tonight as well, too. And the first game that we have up comes from the developers, and according to Carlyle and Maestro, hold on a minute. I got a feeling because it needs to be translated, and they said yes, which comes from none other than Kayano with their said game of A Promise to Be Lonely. From the developers Unkind Pig with their said game of Bouncy Bird. Little Alien Games with their set game of Cafe Paranoia. Temporas with their set game of Deep Descent. Shab Wham, nice name by the way, with their set game of the text-based Chariot Race. Raja Wari with their set game of Cold Future. From the developers Jillian 12,004, thank you for the correction, Colin and Maestro laughing over in the corner, with their set game of 3. Pingu 505 with their set game of Crazy Bomb Blast. Embrix with their set game of Stampede City. 1-Bit Games with their set game, or from the creators Shab Wham with their set game of 1-Bit Games. Shab Wham with another game of War Machine. Tokyo Low with their set game of Offline Mario. From the developers Play Hurry Verse with their set game of Emoji Rush. From the developers Sunrealm Studios with their set game of Luna Force 2. Lady Annie with their set game of Between the Lines. Mad Scoob 700 with their set game of Sprinaldi's Callisto House. Formulous Games with their set game of Ashbound. Clueless Talk with their set game of Connect 4. Alchemetics with their set game of Alchemetics. And finally, last but certainly not least, from the developers Cool Nico with their set game of Sparkle Saga. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still out there to help you scratch that indie itch you got for the night, and trust me, there are a lot of them, you can head on over to the itch.io page of one man only known as itch.io under the games section to check out all those cool games and more for yourselves. And as a heads up, there's a lot of them. You may be there for a while, because there's 1.5 million of them now. Almost as high as the Powerball jackpot. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool games, a part of the Art Wall, Sound Wall, Screenshot Saturday Showcase, or even have your games featured over there as well, then you can go ahead and head on over to the said Indiecade.tumblr page of one man only known as Indiecade.tumblr.com, or head on over towards their Facebook page known as Indiecade, or even their Twitter, Flickr, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, SoundCloud, Steam Machine, or website that are all named the same, but it's just as critically acclaimed, only known as, you guessed it folks, Indiecade. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back and tap music and continue to listen into these Diamonds in the Rough as we try to turn your Tuesday night into a Friday night. Only here, right here, on the Tuesday Night Special. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And as a bit of a heads up, and thanks to Carl and the Maestro this past weekend, good news for those out there who don't have access to a SoundCloud account and always wanted to listen into these shows, we will have them featured a part of YouTube as well too. So yeah, we're back on YouTube. And according to Carl and the Maestro, how were you able to pull that off? Well, thanks to a program on our computer that made it about as easy as it possibly can be. That and because of you guys. Don't you remember you were there helping me with that? And they said, yeah, now I remember. See? How time flies. But besides that bit of good news, and with Dan the Weatherman still pushing that thing up the stairs because I can hear him from a distance. Yep, Dan the Weatherman still here to deliver the 5-day weather forecast for this week. Dan the Weatherman still, that looks ridiculous. He turned it on and started the confetti around here again, and the microphone is all yours. Thank goodness I'm wearing glasses. That almost got in my eyes. Hey! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, it's your boy from Chicago, Illinois, Dan the Weatherman still here to be the 5-day weather forecast for this week. And Dan the Weatherman still is here to party. Yeah! You lost your mind, haven't you? I hope you know the party that we had for the Tuesday night special was earlier before the show could start because we know how late this show is going to be. And not to mention I got work in the morning. So the fact that we're already up this late at night with the show is already hazardous enough for my health according to Carl and the Maestro. So I don't think there's going to be any form of party happening. Don't worry, DJ Smokey, I got it covered. I called over a couple of my friends. They're going to be here in 5 minutes. No way on Neptune's moon are you going to have people over here for some late night party past moonlight hours. Or at least 2 hours past the midnight hour around here. Are you insane? No, DJ Smokey, I think this show needs to be properly celebrated. And that's what I'm gonna do. You know, I got a headache right now. I didn't even start today, but I already have one. So, with you spending about 15 minutes lugging that thing up the stairs, making as much noise as possible, could you do me a favor with all this confetti all over the place, besides getting a broom and cleaning it up? But before then, could you do the weather? Yeah, go ahead and do the weather. Because I got a feeling I'm going to have to clean it up every single time, man. Jeez. All right. So for tonight, that's right, Tuesday night, it's going to be a low of 64. Partly cloudy skies with winds going north at 3 miles per hour. And on Wednesday, still a sunny day for now, because it's going to be a high of 65. That's a high of 86. High of 86, low of 65. Mostly sunny skies with winds going northwest at 5 miles per hour. And on Thursday, here comes the rain, cause it's gonna be a high of 86, low of 63. Morning showers at 42%, with winds going west, northwest at 7 miles per hour. And on Friday, start of the mid-weekend of the month, baby. Cause it's gonna be a high of 85, low of 59. Partly cloudy skies with winds going north, northwest at 7 miles per hour. And on Saturday, a little bit cooler than most. Cause Cause it's gonna be a high of 83, low of 61. Partly cloudy skies with winds going north at 4 miles per hour. And on Sunday, not a sunny day at all. Cause it's gonna be a high of 79, low of 67. Nightly showers at 54%, with winds going south at 9 miles per hour. And now you know, cause I've gotta go, because I am Dan the Weather Man Stu, and I am through for the weather broadcast for this week. And now back to the man who's got a present in his hand, DJ Smokey for the Tuesday Night Special. Yeah. You know what, Dan the Weatherman Stu? And I already called your friends and told them that we're going to have to wait until the weekend to celebrate or truly have some form of party for this show. But at the same time, I got a feeling we had to give you some form of gift for being a part of this show for well over 597, or was it 593? All I know is Dan the Weatherman Stu showed up for this show, I do believe 7 or 8 episodes deep. So the fact that you've been here this long, we managed to get you this tiny gift. What could it have possibly been? Let me check it out. Well, that's cool. Well, for those at home who can't see it, I got Dan the Weatherman Stu this disco ball that's blue and silver with the number 600 on it that I originally was going to give it to him for the 600th episode of the weather update he was able to do, but since we're already all here, you might as well enjoy that for the night. So, there you go. Carl and the maestro, Dan the Weatherman Stu, is a little overcome with emotion, and he just picked up the, hey, where you going? Wait, where you going, man? Where you go? Hey, he's gone. Wow. I didn't know a gift would make somebody leave. Apparently, according to Carl and the maestro, he's coming back, and he gave, oh, wow. Nice. For those who can't see at home, Dan the Weatherman Stu gave me this miniature skyscraper that has blue and silver lights and has the number 600 on it. Nice. I like it. We're going to keep that on the desk. Right over, okay, not there, not next to the board, not next to the monitor, not next to that CD collection I have. We'll leave it right here. Leave it right here, right next to the microphone. Looks nice, too. I mean, really glows in the dark, and I like it. So thanks, Dan the Weatherman Stu. You're welcome for that kind gift. See you next time. Dan the Weatherman Stu out. Best weatherman we can find in the business. At least for a late night show like this. But besides Dan the Weatherman Stu's credentials, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the Indie Report right after this. So don't go watching late night infomercials or sneak downstairs for that pre or post midnight snack just yet, folks. And stay tuned. Right, all you Streetlight Crusaders, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. Now, one thing I forgot to mention about the gift Dan the Weatherman Stu gave me is the fact that this thing can double over as a paperweight, which is pretty cool. That and also a nightlight. Wait, what type of batteries does this thing take? According to Carl of the Maestro, AAA. Of course. Always the dreaded AAA battery. Well, besides my disdain for AAA battery and the current prices for those said batteries, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indie Report, which is me giving you guys 2 news stories followed up by local concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And in our first news story, and in news from the world of Chris Van Vliet with Insight, because this week we would see none other than Nikki Cross a part of the show. And a lot of people were surprised to see her in the pink outfit that she wore for it, but at the same time, after checking her out a part of Up, Up, Down, Down, having one of the longest names in history for that, and how energetic she is, yeah, it's no surprise to me. Not to mention there was that one time where she did split her pants playing rock, paper, scissors, which was absolutely hilarious. But something that was no laughing matter, not only she would talk about the Wyatt Six, her role a part of it, Nikki ASH, and as well as what she's doing up a part of Progress Wrestling, which she's currently the owner of. Nice! It's so great to see her bounce back after becoming one of the people that were released, a part of the Wyatt Six. Now, here's hoping in the near future we can see Chris Van Vliet get the leader of the Wyatt Six a part of here, none other than Bo Dallas, or Bo Rotundo? I keep forgetting what his real name is. Either way you look at it, Uncle Howdy. Hopefully we can see that happen in the near future. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out this exclusive interview with possibly one of the nicest and most energetic people you'll ever meet, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Chris Van Vliet to check it out for yourselves. And in other news, and more or less news from the world once again of professional wrestling, because someone we keep forgetting to mention on the longest amount of time around here, Dr. Bo Hightower, professional chiropractor, would decide to give an adjustment to none other than Darby Allin. Now, we almost forgot to mention he gave a chiropractic adjustment to the late great Sabu, and the fact that now he's getting a chance to do it for Darby Allin, and not only that, but we get a chance to ask him about the craziest things he's done in and out of the ring. Yeah, this guy definitely does need a chiropractic adjustment. And if anybody else outside of him, I can't wait to see Jeff Hardy if he ever comes there and starts talking about the crazy things he jumped off of, because that's a story within itself. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the chiropractic adjustment of Darby Allin, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Dr. Bo Hightower to check it out for yourselves. And with that said, folks, we now head on over towards the concert information for this week, where we kick things off with none other than Wednesday, August 12th. And the first band that we have up is The Fray with Dashboard Confessional and Colony House, who's all going to be performing at the Jacobs Pavilion Nautica in Cleveland, Ohio at 7 p.m. Muse with Portugal, The Man, and The Temper Trap, who's all going to be performing at the Lakewood Amphitheater in Atlanta, Georgia at 7 p.m. Anthony Green is going to be performing at the La Rosa in Tucson, Arizona at 7 p.m. Andy Grammer with The Walk Off the Earth is all going to be performing at the Everwise Amphitheater in White River State Park in Indianapolis, Indiana at 7:30 p.m. Modest Mouse is going to be performing at the Salt Shed in Chicago, Illinois at 7:30 p.m. You can also see Andrew McMahon, who's going to be performing at the Gracias in Chicago, Illinois at 8 p.m. LCD Sound System with Victoryland is going to be performing at the Kettle House Amphitheater in Bonner, Montana at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Wednesday night, you can see St. Lucia, who's going to be performing at the Brooklyn Brawl, or the Brooklyn Bowl, thank you for the correction, Carl and the Maestro, in Nashville, Tennessee at 8 p.m. Wait, the Brooklyn Bowl in Nashville. Right. And on Thursday, August 13th, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. The Big Thief is going to be performing at the Salt Shed in Chicago, Illinois at 6:15 p.m. The Deer Hunter is going to be performing at the Pyramid Scheme in Grand Rapids, Michigan at 6:30 p.m. Maybe not call a performance place that, because I don't think people would come to a Pyramid Scheme. Well, the ones that they would know about. But besides all that, folks, next band we have up is Mount Joy, who's going to be performing at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Morrison, Colorado at 7 p.m. The Passion Pit is going to be performing at the Showbox Sodo in Seattle, Washington at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Thursday night, you can see the LCD Sound System with Victoryland, who's all going to be performing at the Kettle House Amphitheater in Bonner, Montana at 8 p.m. And for Tuesday for next week, which happens to be the 18th of August already, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Anthony Green is going to be performing at the Escura in Brenton, Florida at 6 p.m. Whitney is going to be performing at the Volcanic Theater Pub in Bend, Oregon at 7 p.m. Andy Grammer with the Walk Off the Earth is going to be performing at the Lake Maury Resort in Fairleigh, Virginia at 7 p.m. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, Vermont. Anyway, next band we have up after that is the Palma Moose, who's going to be performing at the Britain Music Hall, according to Carl and the Maestro, trying to fix it, in Boston, Massachusetts at 7 p.m. Mount Joy is going to be performing at the Ready Shell at Jacobs Park in San Diego, California at 7 p.m. Empire of the Sun with Polo and Pan is going to be performing at the BMO Pavilion in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at 7 p.m. Dashboard Confessional with Glam is going to be performing at the State Theater in Portland, Michigan at 7:30 p.m. And Carl and the Maestro said, Maine, you sure? And apparently, yes, they're sure. Holding up a picture of Maine. Anyway, next band we have up after that is Camp with Blind Plot, who's going to be performing at the Kettle House Amphitheater in Bonner, Montana at 7:30 p.m. LCD Sound System with Victoryland is all going to be performing at the Armory in Minneapolis, Minnesota at 7:30 p.m. Muse with Portugal, The Man, and The Temper Trap is all going to be performing at the Fiddler's Green Amphitheater in Inglewood, Colorado at 7:30 p.m. St. Lucia is going to be performing at the Gothic Theater in Inglewood, Colorado at 8 p.m. Nathaniel Rateliff, along with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra, is all going to be performing at the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Morrison, Colorado at 8 p.m. Jesse Wells, and according to Carl and the Maestro, we got one more after this. Jesse Wells with the Rap Boys It's all going to be performing at the Steel House in Omaha, Nebraska at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Tuesday for next week and all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see the Passion Pit with Arden Jones, who's going to be performing at the Bellwether in Los Angeles, California at 8 p.m. You guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list for this night, and trust me, there were a lot of them. You can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we couldn't list during this very broadcast. And Carl and the Maestro poking me with a stick telling me that you can also go to SeatGeek.com to check out the complete list of the bands over there as well too. And try to get tickets while supplies last, because the amount are currently dwindling as we speak. I don't know why in the world I looked at my hand like Back to the Future like it was gonna disappear, but either way you look at it, they're dwindling. Go grab them while you can. And like we say at the end of all of these skits, like we've been doing for the past 600 episodes now, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for the Tuesday Night Special for this week, right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you Streetlight Crusaders, seeing the fact that we're fresh out of music and fresh out of Streetlight Crusading all for the night, we might as well bring this sexcentennial celebration of insomniatic goodness known as the Tuesday Night Special for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that Streetlight delight that we were able to give you for this week, we got you covered. Because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and Live 365 pages, still all day the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Tuesday Night Special 600. I still can't believe we've made it this far with this, and saying that number out loud feels as satisfying as biting into a York peppermint patty, I tell ya. And if you guys and gals want to figure out what the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for this summer of RPG, like a show that has just joined the 600 Club with one more original show left to join that's on a weekly basis, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, and we would like to thank from the bottom of our hearts, you the Streetlight Crusaders out there for listening in to a very special Sexcentennial Insomniatic Celebration edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And like always, guys, seriously, we couldn't have done this without you guys. A dream of mine to be a late night TV show host or radio show host to pass the time from my insomnia, and the fact that you guys constantly watch this week after week with all the late night silliness that we were able to bring to you that keeps you away from infomercials, it really means a lot. I'm at a loss for words to describe how much we appreciate you guys and gals out there, but as always, keep up the great work. Keep tuning in. We're definitely going to try to make our way to 700 and eventually to 1,000. That's the ultimate goal. But if you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Samurai Jack after Aku tried to move that portal during that one episode where Jack learned how to apparently fly. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this one, and one of them is wearing an Aku mask right now. Where'd you find that thing? Apparently the internet. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys, and here's hoping your music is featured when we are able to have live performances here in Music Village headquarters. And why? Because we believe you guys. That's why. And Carlyle the Maestro said, care to elaborate? You know, like one of those late night TV shows that has the bands come in and say, ladies and gentlemen, here's this guy or that person performing. Yeah, sort of like that. And they're giving me the thumbs up as well as the PR department, hoping it happens one day too. And why? Once again, because we believe you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of musical performances that we believe in to be a part of this very show, Carlyle the Maestro, list please. We would like to thank the following artists along the lines of not only Tigercub with their said song of a Black Moon, even Pipe Choir with their song of Mapping the Stars, Throwing Muses with their song of South Coast, even none other than Mesh with their said song of Weapon of Peace, also seeing none other than Optic Sync with their song of Summertime Rain, Maura Weaver with their remix version of Museum Glass, Heavy Mother with their said song of This Time Around, Basement in My Loft with Drive Me Around the Bend, the Fods with their song of The Still Pouring Rain, Raychel Winners with their song of Starlight, Flamingoses with their said song of Evening Rain, and finally, last but certainly not least, the man who brought us in for the night, none other than Jason Klug with his said song of Pet the Dog that was featured during the intro for this week's edition of the show. And yes, Carlyle the Maestro, I didn't forget about you as well too. None other than Carlyle the Maestro with their song you're listening to in the background right now of the Late Night Cafe Wrap-Up. That's wrapping things up for this Streetlight Delight Celebration edition of the Tuesday Night Special. And like always, guys and gals out there, keep them coming, because you always got a home under these bright street lights for the Tuesday Night Special. So keep them coming, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And we would also like to thank, even though he already left, Dan the Weatherman Stew, Patrick Crocker especially for this show, Our City Radio, Your City Radio, Live 365, and of course, every single person who believed that this show could be possible. Seriously, we couldn't thank you guys enough, and we definitely had to include you during the outro for it because, like I said before, to the Streetlight Crusaders, this show would not be possible without you. So give yourselves a late night round of applause that hopefully doesn't wake the neighbors. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for delivering all those sweet, sweet video game hits and clips that we had a chance to mention during this week's show and for the past 600 episodes. And we would also really like to thank IndieCade for giving us permission to mention the games on the air as well, too. So keep up the great work, guys, and we can't wait to see what games comes out of that big festival that's coming around the corner in the near future. And keep them coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys and gals out there, how we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for you up-all-nighters, late-night drivers, insomniatic TV watchers, gamers, grapplers, street sweepers, garbage collectors, third shift workers, and anybody else up underneath these bright street lights to celebrate this show that's 600 episodes strong, saying, you can fly? No, jump good. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for a very specially named, yet still critically acclaimed edition of the Midnight Special. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Go get some sleep, and good night, everybody.